All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to end the polling, and I will show the results. Polling, your result. And it looks like the winner is outdated technology and systems. So you guys have come to the right place, and it looks like with a close-ish second would be. Oh, so 1 second. Yes, the recording will be made available. And then with a close second would be speed to reforecast. And those obviously will go hand in hand because with newer technologies and systems, you will be able to reforecast much more quickly. So let's get started, everyone. So thank you everyone this morning for attending our webinar on construction, and we are going to be running about an hour through this webinar. But first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Corey Reed, your account executive here at Workday. Started actually with Adaptive back in 2012 on the implementation side, and then did that for a couple of years, demoed for a few years, and now on the sales side. And then now part of the Workday family once they acquired us a couple of years ago. So looking forward to talking about construction and budgeting and forecasting. Neri, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Corey. I am Neri Kunchunite, a lead solution architect at Active Cyber. I've been working with Workday Adaptive Planning for almost 6 years now, helping different organizations of different sizes improve the planning processes using the system. So I'll be going through the demonstration today, showing how construction companies in particular can plan for projects using Adaptive, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have at the end of the webinar.
Thank you, Neri. So the agenda today, we're going to be walking through a little bit about an overview of Workday Adaptive Planning, talking about who we are, kind of the history of budgeting and forecasting within Adaptive Workday. Neri is also going to be talking a little more specifically about construction. And then most of the time is going to be spent in the demo with Neri today. You can see the third bullet is Q&A. However, we actually don't want to hold the questions to the end. So please feel free to write some questions in the actual Q&A. There's a chat box, but if you could do it in the Q&A section, that would be a lot easier. And we'll be answering your questions throughout the demonstration. Now that Adaptive is purchased by Workday, we have to put up the safe harbor statement since we are a publicly traded company. With this, we're just talking about forward-looking statements. So that's more of a roadmap discussion. Most likely, we won't have too much roadmap discussion in the discussion today. However, we're just saying, please make your purchasing decisions on the current feature and functionality of Workday Adaptive Planning. And everything that Neri is showing is current feature and function of Workday Adaptive. So let's get to it. So the theme of really 2020 is navigating the changing world. And I think we would all agree it's been a turbulent time. Starting from the left, there's been supply and demand disruptions. More and more customers have been talking to us about the importance of cash flow management during these times, and also just adjusting to a remote workforce. And with COVID-19 and the pandemic raging starting in March and obviously disrupting us very quickly, we believe that from disruption comes response, recovery, and then we'll thrive. And with Workday, we believe we're right in between the respond and recovery. With this, we have to be ready for the recovery and being ready to thrive. And with this changing world, we believe we have to be much more agile. And we believe planning is the path to business agility. So as we know, most people that come to us are either on older systems or Excel. And with this, in both cases, it's very timely. And with this, we want information much quicker so we can act on those decisions much quicker. You'd be surprised, even during the pandemic, when it first started, our versions were up 30 times because everyone doing those what if scenarios, changing assumptions, changing drivers, and be able to see how that affects their business throughout, and then be able to act on those decisions much more quickly. However, today's reality is static planning. So the Excel world, Excel is a great tool. However, we're really pushing it to its limits and really kind of making it more of a Frankenstein monster that we really can't control. So finance is the orchestrator of the budget. However, we're passing out spreadsheets through HR, IT, operations. So truly everyone plans. However, there's version control issues. There's broken formula links, kind of like a cheesy infomercial. There has to be a better way. We want to spend more time on the analysis of the data versus the aggregation of data. We're spending so much ticking and tying. We wish we could see the data much more quickly and be able to act on those decisions. And what we think is a requirement for business agility is a planning process that is collaborative, continuous, and comprehensive. We want to involve more people within the budgeting and planning process, not just finance. The mantra at Workday Adaptive Planning is truly everyone plans. We also want a more continuous process. And I think that's even more paramount and important with 2020. I'm sure almost none of you are really keeping your budget from January. And then you've had to reforecast pretty frequently just to adapt to the changes. And the world seems to be changing every day, and we have to adjust and be agile. And then also a comprehensive model. What's unique with Workday Adaptive Planning is we're designed for business users. You do not have to be an IT expert to use Adaptive. It's the same operators as Excel. There's no scripting, there's no coding. However, we mix the ease of use with a powerful modeling engine. So we'll be able to scale with your business. There's more data and more data every day. So you're gonna be waiting seconds, not minutes to get those results. And with this, what we wanna get you to is a faster planning to be able to execute those decisions much quicker. And we wanted to put up some numbers just to bring to light the value realization of Adaptive. From accelerated cycle times to making finance a more strategic partner, and also spend your time more on higher value added tasks. Again, get you off the copy and pasting exercises you may have to be doing today, ticking and tying numbers, actually analyzing the data, understanding the data, and reacting to the data. And actually to be even more proactive versus reactive. Here at Adaptive, our Workday Adaptive Planning, we also want to shed the light that it's not just financial data that you're going to be budgeting and forecasting. It could be operational data. The average sources of data that actually bring into Adaptive are about 3 to 5. So it's just not a general ledger account. And Nira will be showing a lot of this as well, especially in construction. There's projects most likely that you'll be wanting to do. So what are we going to be doing here at Adaptive? We're going to start on the left there with modeling, changing assumptions, changing drivers, flexing our model. We'll be able to monitor everything with our dashboard. So drill down, drill across, slice and dice, be able to better understand our business, looking at those metrics. 2 flavors of reporting. One is our drag and drop HTML reporting, and the other is our Office Connect product, which is a plugin to Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. So if you have those highly formatted reports in Word, Excel, PowerPoint that you're doing on a monthly or quarterly cadence, instead of doing that copy and paste exercise, you hit a button, everything will update from Adaptive, and then you spend the time writing the analysis. And then analyze. This is going to be a constant theme throughout the demonstration with Neri. My favorite feature within Adaptive is the Cell Explorer, where you can drill down from anywhere. So you can drill down from a report, from a dashboard, from an input sheet, all the way down to a transaction. Also, how do I get data into Adaptive? 2 major ways. One is a automated integration. So we can connect to that source system, and you can schedule it and have it on demand. So maybe you run it nightly. However, maybe during close, you're updating it on demand multiple times a day. The second is a flat file CSV upload. And many people actually do a hybrid approach where maybe some data they want more consistently, so they're bringing it in an automated fashion. However, maybe only once a month, there's some certain operational metrics that you want to bring in, they'll be doing a flat file. Company highlights. So we are the leader in the cloud budgeting and forecasting software with over 5,300 customers. One thing I'd like to stress also is the highest user rating. Ease of use is paramount within Adaptive. Again, we're not going to turn you or your end users into IT gurus. And as far as the company highlights of Workday, as you can see on the left, there are many awards, especially as far as innovative, great place to work, and really disrupting the industry. So with that, I'd like to pass the buck over to Neri, but I think we're going to have another poll real quick before we jump into Neri's presentation, which is a lot more construction focused regarding budgeting, planning, and forecasting. So if everyone could put their responses. Just a few more seconds. We have 12 responses so far. I'm gonna wait for a few more. There we go. Okay, so looks like planning sheets is the winner. So we'll be definitely talking about how are we planning within Workday Adaptive Planning. And then also, not surprising, people love their Excel. So we'll talk about how also can we marry Excel within Workday Adaptive Planning for people that are more comfortable in that interface. So Neri?
I think we have one more that I will launch here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, one more. What do you struggle with most when planning for projects? Okay, we'll go ahead and end polling now, and I'll share the results.
Wow. And it's a clear winner this time with budget versus actuals and monitoring those discrepancies. And again, Neri, as we'll be showing quite a bit about versions and also being able to understand the budget versus actuals and those variances.
Absolutely. So just to add to that, Corey, we'll make sure to call out where we're showing plan versus actual performance for projects today during demonstration. So there's definitely capability there, and I'll make sure to call out that during demonstration. Perfect. So I'd like to start with a brief introduction to Active Cyber first, and then talk about active project management before we dive into the demo. So we are a platinum solution provider at Active Cyber with Premier accreditation, and that is the highest level of certification there can be. We have received Accreditation Partner of the Year FY 2020 status, and that really means that there are a lot of customers that have attested to the high quality of services that we provide. Our practice was started as a Workday practice around 10 years ago. And within our practice, we have combined decades of success in planning. As a testament to our quality, we have added over 150 clients last year, many with multiple use cases, meaning not only FP&A, but project planning, sales and operations planning, workforce planning, sales performance management, etc. You can see some of our customer logos here on the right-hand side of the slide. Okay, next slide, Corey.
And a quick question from Mike K. He was told we focused on the construction industry. Absolutely. That's going to be the talk of the demonstration pretty much throughout. And Neri's going to be talking more specific regarding construction during this. We just gave the high level overview, and then we're going to narrow it down to construction.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for answering that question, Corey. So just continuing here on the project management and what we have seen across our customers and prospects that we speak to, companies have similar project management needs. However, they do struggle to fulfill those needs outside of adaptive. So those needs usually include how do we allocate resources to projects and update resource availability, which, if able to do, can give us indications on resource gaps or overutilization. How do we quickly analyze resource position in a variety of scenarios? That usually involves identifying a need to reorganize structural workforce. For example, what is the impact of allocating employees to a project versus contractors? Or what is the impact of shifting resources from one project to another? Then how can we drill down to the task level of the project to identify where we might be over or under performing from a cost perspective? And finally, how do we sync our resource plans for projects with HR resource plans to make sure that they are recruiting the right people at the right cost and our plans for any additional resourcing needs are in line? And so this is where a system such as Workday Adaptive Planning comes in to help fulfill those needs. Next slide, please. Perfect. So you might ask, of course, how adaptive can help with all of that. And so here on the slide, I have a few ways how it can. We'll make sure to expand on these during demonstration today, but adaptive can help you gain insights into profitability of your projects. And you can even drill into that to find the key metrics that drive performance. Adaptive can also help you respond to new information with agility. During the demonstration today, we will make changes to the plan based on the new information gathered in the field, and we will be able to identify quickly what impact that information had on our financials and operational metrics. Also, Adaptive can help with project management by enabling you to create any number of scenario analysis versions you would like. And we will have a look today at a few ways how you could perform what if analysis in the system. Next slide, please. So with active project management, you can not only visualize distribution of resources across the projects in meaningful ways to avoid having some projects resource heavy while others might be lacking resources, but you can also drill down into areas of focus with the greatest impact and identify strategic initiatives to move forward. So, for example, identifying when additional funding might be needed or moving projects to be done by internal resources rather than paying additional margin to subcontractors. Next slide, please. And here we have a customer case study of a company that is a full service design, build, operate, and maintain firm. Business problems that they experienced before getting adaptive were a lack of dynamic reporting capabilities where they could easily report by project, by client, shift project timelines, etc. They also had no ability to do what if scenario analysis or easily manipulate data and quickly see the impact of those changes. And only after getting Workday Adaptive Planning, they were able to reduce their budgeting time by 65%. They saved an hour of work each month when producing executive dashboards. And they accelerated monthly reporting cycles by 33%. So just imagine what you could do with all that extra time. This time could be reallocated to much higher value activities that drive your company's performance as compared to pretty manual tasks of filling in budget templates and creating reports and dashboards. Next slide, please. And finally, we have the long-awaited demo on project planning and construction industry, where you'll be able to see how using Adaptive, we can eliminate manual, usually Excel-based planning processes for projects, how we can increase visibility into projects, and conduct scenario analysis to evaluate the impact of possible future outcomes, which is more important now than ever. So the plan for the demonstration is the following. First, we'll review the plan for FY 2020 for construction projects. Then we will create scenario version so that we can incorporate the changes gathered in the field. And finally, we will review the variances that we will have generated by making the aforementioned changes to the original plan to be able to make those decisions if the scenario should become the new plan. So without further ado, I will jump to the demo. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so as mentioned, I will start with reviewing the plan for all my projects in a way of a report. So here by project, and I have a lot of projects to choose from here from in this drop-down list. I can review not only project financials, but also a number of assigned headcount to any particular project. I can also drill into this number to see which resources we have working for any given project. I can also drill into any of the costs that I have here. So for example, if I wanted to understand more about materials and the detail behind that, so I can drill into that by, say, vendor and see the detail there. Or let's drill down into labor costs by labor category. So we can look into that too. Currently, we are only reporting on FY 2020 plan, as you can see here. So of course, there is no variance across the versions, but shortly we will create a scenario version. And towards the end of the demonstration, we will review the variances between the scenario and the original plan. Another report that I have here is project financials by month, where not only I have visibility into revenue, costs, and margin by project, but also timeline of each project. We will make a change shortly to the timeline of one project, and you'll be able to see how such change can quickly shift not only the costs associated with the project, but also revenue, because revenue is calculated using percentage of completion method and using cost as basis for this method. There are various areas within Workday Adaptive Planning where we can make changes to our plans. And one such area is active dashboards, where I am right now. Dashboards play an important role in the planning and analysis process. They give users secured access to data analysis and even data entry. We have context filters here at the top, which allow us to filter data by time period, level of the company, which can be a business unit or construction site, currency, and of course, project. There is unlimited dimensionality available within Workday Adaptive Planning. And so if needed, we can add additional dimensions here to be able to slice and dice our data even further. Now, some general information about dashboards. They are all hoverable and clickable. Hovering over any dial gives us more information about data that we're looking at. As mentioned, we can also click on any data point on the chart and drill into it. For example, if we want to understand which projects we have open in July, we can drill into July by project. And we can see these projects being open at the time. We can further drill into any given project by any other details, such as project type. And we can continue this process until we find the information that we're looking for. I can also launch Cell Explorer from any data point in any dial to access even more detail about that data point. So I'll go back to July and explore data there. And here I can see that I have 4 open projects in July, but now I have that broken down into territories. So I'll go into Europe, and now I can see that it's the project 4 that we have open in Europe at the time. And in particular, it's the closeout project phase that we are working on at the moment. I can even go into an input sheet, such as WIP schedule that I have here, and see where that data is being planned. So here we are planning all the data for all our projects, and we will come back to this sheet in a second, but that is a great example of being able to navigate quickly from data outputs such as dashboards to a detailed input sheet such as WIP schedule that we have here. Now, as there is no limit to the number of dimensions, there is also no limit to the number of versions within the system. We can use versions for creating budgets, forecasts, what if scenarios, and even constant currency reporting versions. So let's go ahead now and create a scenario version. Let's call that scenario 1. We'll be making all the changes today in this scenario version, but let's use our FY 2020 projects plan as the baseline here. So we are just copying the FY 2020 projects plan, copying all the data there, and we quickly have a new version created now where we can make our changes and see the impact. So before I start making any changes here, I want to review the baseline performance of my projects. So on the overview dashboard, I can see that I currently have 4 open projects, 1 project that is in backlog, 1 that started this month, and we don't have any that closed. I can review projects by type and see how many open projects we plan to have this year versus how many I actually have. So you can see, of course, that from July onwards, we don't have any open projects, but the reason for that is because we are assuming that we are currently in July. And so we don't have any actuals imported for that yet because we are just working on closing our actuals. On the projects review tab, I can review financial information for all my projects or any given project and see revenue forecast for both existing and pipeline projects. We have recently secured an additional piece of work for one of our projects, and so I need to include that in my plan. So here I have a sheet where I will include that additional piece of work. So this is the same WIP schedule we looked at earlier. And so I have all the information here for my projects, such as client, projected start and end date, project type, a construction type, etc. Price that we identify for projects, of course, and phases and timelines for each project. So I'll go ahead and enter that additional piece of work that we have secured. It's going to be for project 2. So I'll just include an additional row here. And it's going to be painting. We plan to start it in October, assuming, of course, that we are still in July. And let's plan to finish it 1 month after, so November. I'll make sure to adjust the contract price as well, because of course we have additional revenue, so we need to be compensated for that. So my apologies, I'll just do 1,200,000 there. And I'll save those changes. So now that I have a painting included in my plan, I'll also make a few changes to change orders. So in addition to planning here for project price, phases, and the timelines, we're also able to plan for any change orders. And we know that especially in construction industry, they are very frequent. So here I have a sheet which holds all the change order detail. And I can see there is a new change order here with no approval yet. I am happy with the information for this change order, so I'll just hit that as approved to make sure that it is included in the plan. And now that we have that change order included in the plan, we can go back to the WIP schedule sheet and review the impact that it had on the specific project. So the change order was associated with project 2 and the roofing phase in particular. So I can go into row details here to see all the calculations that we have behind this sheet. So the first thing that I see is the monthly cost, not including the change order amount separately, and the cost including the change order. So of course, the change order amount is quite significant as compared to the total cost, but we had to include it in the plan. So I'm happy with the changes here, so I'll leave it as that. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, active dashboards is just one area where we can create plans and make changes to plans. Another area and one that works particularly great when you don't have internet connectivity, say you are on a construction site, is Excel interface for planning. And of course, on the poll, we saw that there were a lot of people interested in seeing that. So I'll make sure to show that right now. So I'll just switch to Excel here. So as the name suggests, Excel interface for planning is an add-in to Excel where you can make plans offline as you would with standard Excel and submit your changes when you're back online. So as you can see, it is standard Excel with a couple of add-ins, adaptive add-ins, Planning and Office Connect. On the planning pane, we can choose the sheet that we want to plan in. And I'm currently on the WIP schedule sheet because that's where I will make a change. As you can see, the sheet looks exactly the same as the WIP schedule sheet we just saw in the browser. So now let's assume that I am on a site. I don't have internet connection, but I need to make a change to the WIP schedule. So the first thing that I'll do, I want to make that change in the scenario version that we have just recently created. So I'll just refresh the task pane for that new version to be shown on the drop-down list. And I will navigate to that. Okay, so we are now looking at the WIP schedule on scenario 1 version. And the first thing that you'll probably notice is that looking at project 2, you can see that the changes that we have just recently made in the browser, they have come through here. So we have the higher price for the contract, and we also have the painting phase, which we have just recently added. Now, another change that I want to make here is to project 5. So due to the current situation, I know that project 5 is experiencing quite a significant delay. So I need to move the start date to a little bit later in the year. So I'll move that to August. And I'll adjust the end date as well to a couple months further. So let's make that January 2021. And I'll adjust the phases accordingly as well. And that's it. We are done with the changes. So now, of course, I don't have internet connection. I can't submit these changes to Adaptive yet. So I'll just save the sheet. And when I'm back online, I can simply click Submit. and the changes will appear in Adaptive instantly. So now let's assume that we are back online, and I will submit the changes. Changes have been saved, and we can go back to the browser, and we should see those changes there. So I'll just go back here, look at the same WIP schedule sheet. And on project 5, you can see instantly, we can see the changes that we have made. So we have shifted the timeline for this project. So just to recap, you always have an option of where you want to create your plans and make changes to plans depending on what works best for you.
And Neri, we have a question from the audience. The question is, how is the data fed into this system?
Great question. So as you've just probably seen, Excel interface for planning is an add-in to Excel. So you would need to download that and then log in using your Adaptive credentials. So you are basically logged into the system. And once you make your changes, they are fed back to the browser straight away. So you are still in the system. It's just that you are using an add-in to Excel.
Thanks, Neri.
No problem. Okay. Perfect. So now let's take a closer look at one of the projects that we're planning for. And I will go to project 2 that we have here. I can see that currently it is at 44% completion, which also means that to date we were able to recognize 44% of total project revenue. I noticed that actual project progress is slower than planned. And if that continues, we risk falling behind the projected timelines. So to speed up the progress, we might think about potentially getting additional labor or any other options that we can consider to speed up the progress here. Completion percentage has also been used to spread revenue across the duration of the project, and it matches the spread of costs. So here I'm able to see revenue, costs, and margin by project, by month. Even though this project seems to be loss-making at the start, it does turn into a profitable position once it progresses. However, we do need to monitor this closely and find cost efficiencies if the desired margin levels cannot be achieved or maintained. Labor costs form a big part of project costs, and of course, we want to track that separately. So here I can review labor mix working on this project at any given time and available resource pool by job category. I straight away notice the flag here that tells me there is something wrong with my labor plan. And the reason for that is because we don't have any resource allocated to work as a plumber on this project. So to fix that, I'll go to the resource pool sheet and search for a plumber. So we have two resources here, one that is a contractor and another one that is an employee. To make sure that I use resources in the most cost-effective and efficient way, I'll choose employee, so that is resource 6, and allocate resource 6 to the plumbing job on project 2, and save those changes. And just notice how the labor cost will change here, of course, taking into account that additional resource that we have just allocated. Under other costs, I am able to compare costs by phase, by cost category, and compare planned costs with actual. I can see here that there is an issue with my cost plan as well. Total of materials, equipment rental, and subcontracting costs are going to exceed the approved budget, and I need to find a way to reduce these costs. Now, one way to reduce these costs might be to shift a project from being subcontracted to being done internally by our own resources. So let's explore that option. I can see that roofing phase is planned to be subcontracted. So I'll change that. And let's assume that we will do it in-house. But of course, for that, I do need to plan for additional costs that we might incur. So let's say that we'll have this cost for equipment rental. And also we need to plan for any direct materials cost that we will need to be able to carry out roofing internally. Let's say materials cost is going to be $15,000. So by making those changes, I was able to reduce the cost budget to below the approved budget. So I'm happy with the changes that I've made here. Taking a quick look at project cash flow, I can see that currently it is in cash deficit. And that will continue for a few months into the year, which tells me that we need to possibly consider arranging finance to cover the projected cost for a few months. Now, as there is no limit to the number of dimensions and versions within the system, that means we can have an unlimited number of project scenarios. In addition to creating a scenario as a new version, as we have done here, we can also have them as um, dimensions as well. So really performing high level scenario analysis as compared to changing the bottom-up variables, which you can do using scenarios as versions. So here I have an example of performing high-level scenario analysis. And here I have best, likely, and worst case scenarios, and I can compare them to the current case from revenue, cost, or margin perspective. There has been a recent decline in the construction industry, and I want to see what the impact would be on the margin of this particular project if we were not able to achieve the planned revenue. So to evaluate the impact, I am going to reduce the worst case revenue projection even further. And I'll do that in the scenario analysis input sheets that I have. So just to give you a quick overview of what we are looking at here, I have a sheet here with all the scenarios that we have just seen, and I'm able to adjust high-level P&L items by inputting percentage changes. Previously, I had a negative 15% adjustment to revenue to represent worst case, but I am going to reduce it even further by further 5%. So I'll make that as 20% adjustment. And I'll make sure to adjust direct costs as a consequence. And save the changes. And we can see what impact these changes had on the dials that I have here. So these changes, of course, have increased the gap between current and worst case projections and have reduced the worst case gross margin number to $37,300. But I am much more comfortable with this number representing the worst case given the decline in the industry. Now that I had made all the changes to the plan I needed to make, I will review what impact these changes had to the overall performance of my projects as compared to the baseline budget. So I will return to the same reports we looked at earlier, but now, of course, we're able to compare and calculate the variance between the baseline performance and the scenario that we have just created. So the first thing that we can see is revenue, of course, has increased, and that is because we have included that additional piece of work in our plan and adjusted revenue as a consequence. Labor costs have increased because we have assigned an additional resource. And this change to the plan is also reflected in headcount variance here. To remind myself due to which particular resource we have this variance, I can drill into resource and I can see it's the resource 6 that we have allocated to this project. Now I can see also that materials and equipment rental costs have also increased, but that was more than offset by the reduction in the subcontracting costs. So overall, these changes had a positive impact on the margin of the project. Now let's have a quick look at the project timelines. So project 5 here, if you remember, previously had a start date in June, but we have shifted that to August. And you can see that all the revenue and costs have shifted. So of course, revenue as a consequence of costs being shifted. And the end date has also shifted to January next year. So to summarize what we were able to do today within Workday Adaptive Planning, we made changes to our project plan. We reviewed performance of all our projects. We're able to monitor the progress, assign labor, reduce costs, and also perform scenario analysis. But that is only a small part of what companies in the construction space can achieve with a system such as Adaptive and with us Active Cyber as experienced partner in this field. So I thank you for your attention today, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
So again, if you have any questions, feel free to write it in the question and answer box. We'll give everyone a minute.
We have a question. I was just gonna say, if we don't have any questions.
Oh, so it looks like we have
We have a question, Corey, about.
Yes. So licensing is broken down by user type. There's 3 types of users. There's an administrator, a contributor, and a view-only user. And we can talk about that offline as far as the features or like the power of each type. So the admin is the super user, set roles and permissions for other users, create new versions, do chart of accounts. The contributor would be the type of user where they're entering numbers into the system. But they're not like maintaining the model. And then the view only user is they can view data, participate in workflow. However, they are not entering numbers into the application. Good question. Any other questions from the audience?
I was going to let everybody know that we will send out a follow-up email to everyone. It'll include a link to the recording for this event, as well as a quick survey, just to get your feedback. And if you'd like to provide your address, your mailing address in the survey, we'll send you some swag. And then everybody who attended today, we will be sending automatically a $20 DoorDash card as a thank you.
Okay, looks like we have no other questions. I want to thank everyone for your time.
There's one.
Oh, no, I jumped.
Corey, there's one more question that just.
Also, as far as system redundancy, backup recovery, whose responsibility is it? Customer or Workday? That would be Workday. And we could talk about that offline as well, but we do have a backup. So it is not on you, it is on us, and it is done automatically. But again, if you have any more questions in detail, happy to go over how that works. I'll give it a couple more
Great. Thank you so much for everybody joining. Thank you, Corey, and thank you, Neri, and the
Oh.
Active Cyber team for
We
helping
have
put
another
this
one,
together.
Moni.
It's great. Thank you.
So we got another one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if this was covered. If we use projects in Workday now, does this data come over automatically or do we need to use Excel to import?
Yeah, so I can take that, Corey. There are a couple of options how we can handle that. So, of course, you can use Excel to manually import the data over, or we can set up integration between, well, really Workday data management between Workday and Adaptive and bring that data over automatically. So we are happy to talk more with you about these different options. So please feel free to reach out to either me or Corey.
Thanks, Neri. All right, I keep jumping the gun, so I will wait another minute just in case there's another question. Okay, I think it's safe to say no more questions. And if there is any questions, free to reach out and we're happy to go offline and talk about whatever questions you may have. So thank you, Neri, and thank you, Active Cyber, for the great presentation. And looking forward to talking to all the attendees in the future. Take care, everyone.